Coming up on Hands on Tech, I'm going to tell you about the coolest, most cost-effective robot vacuum you can buy.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Hands on Tech is brought to you by SanDisk's Data Storage Solutions. Check out their iXpand Flash Drive Lux or Ultra Dual Drive Lux today and get 15% off your first order of the featured SanDisk products at sandisk.com/hot. Folks, I am pumped to finally be talking about the Wyze Robot Vacuum. This is a product that Wyze had been working on for quite some time, and I have been waiting for it finally to come, and it is finally here. I know I've said finally a billion times, but that's how excited I am. Finally got my hands on the Wyze Robot Vacuum. This is a room mapping robotic vacuum that will clean your space and do it intelligently. And the best thing of all is the price, $249.99. Yes, $250 for a Lidar robot vacuum. That's unheard of. That's incredible. And honestly, this vacuum is incredible. I have been impressed with it from the moment I got it to every moment since then, since I've been using it and trying it out and putting it through its paces. It's been so much fun to use and to see how it works. So I think the important thing to do is to start by talking about Lidar and what exactly that does and what's the point of Lidar. And I think the best way to talk about that is to look at the comparison to a robot vacuum that does not have something like Lidar built in, that has normal collision sensors and a gyroscope built in so that it can sort of orient itself in space and know as well that it's not going to run off of the side of stairs. But when that vacuum starts, all it does is start to drive until it hits something or senses something in its way, and then it turns and drives again and provides suction and is cleaning up your space, but it does so in a random way because it doesn't know where it is in relation to where everything else is. But with a Lidar sensing robot, that takes things to a whole new level. And the Wyze Robot Vacuum, when you first get it, you unbox it, you plug it into the charger, or in this case, just put it up against the charger. After that's all done, the first thing that you do is start the mapping process. And what happens is the robot vacuum comes off of the charger and starts to go out into your space and send out little bits of light in all sorts of directions. I think Wyze said 2016 samples per second that this thing takes. There are these two lasers inside of the top of the robotic vacuum. And as those lasers are spinning around, it's shooting out lights into 2016 directions and then seeing that light bounce back and hit the sensor. And by determining how quickly and from where it hits the sensor, it knows where it is. So it hits a wall and it bounces back and it knows where that wall is. And by doing that, you could almost imagine it's as if you had your eyes closed and you started to feel around in a space. But as you did so, as you were sort of feeling against the wall and the space started to become more solid and you could start to see it, you could start to actually see the space around you. When the robotic vacuum starts, its eyes are closed, but as it continues to send out those lights, those feelers, so to speak, then it starts to open its eyes and can see everything around it. And once it's done that, once it's completely mapped the space, that's where things get magical. Because it can use the built-in 4-core processor. And by the way, it's got a 4-core processor with a GPU as well. This is some hard stuff. This is some really impressive stuff. Using that processor, it can start to figure out the best way to clean your space so that it doesn't just randomly go around running into things and then finding its way back and then going to the charger at the end. No, it can leave from the charger, go through the space, and then if it's in the middle of charging and you've got a large space and it runs out of battery, that's fine because it'll go back and charge up and then start where it left off. Super cool stuff. For me, my space is small enough to do a complete clean in about 30 minutes. And what it does is it starts by going around the outside of my space and then it fills in the middle, going back and forth and back and forth. And at the end, no matter where it finishes, it knows how to get back to the charger in exactly the right way. A very neat thing. I also want to talk about the 7 sensor groups that are built into the Wyze Robot Vacuum. So along with the Lidar, which we've talked about, it also has induction sensors. These are for the charging base. Some charging bases will have for robotic vacuums, they'll have the charge ports sort of on the bottom. And so the robotic vacuum drives up and parks. But the problem with that is that those tend to get more dirty quicker because it's a vacuum. It's going around and cleaning your space. So then the contact isn't as great and it doesn't charge as efficiently. Wyze put theirs on the side for a better charging position and less likely then to end up being an issue with the charging. There are also 2 speed sensors built in so that it can make sure that it is moving at the proper speed and that it can also adjust speeds as it needs to depending on if there's anything in the way. Cliff sensors, it has 4 of those, and those cliff sensors are to make sure that it doesn't go over the top of a set of stairs. A collision sensor, which that is especially, even though you're mapping the space, it doesn't mean that people won't be in it. And so if it runs into your foot, then it knows, oh, I should readjust and go around this. So a nice little bumper essentially to know, oh, I've run into something that I need to go around. And then of course the built-in gyroscope, which is going to come with any robotic vacuum. The built-in suction I found to be very good. It comes in, you can change the speeds between kind of a quiet mode, which is somewhat quiet, a standard mode, and then powerful. And that's up to 2100 pascals, which is the measurement for suction power. So you can kind of compare it to a vacuum cleaner that you may have to try and figure out where yours fits into the lineup. I will say that if there's one downside to this vacuum, it would be the loudness of the robotic vacuum. Even at the quiet level, it is still pretty loud. But that said, if you've ever run a vacuum, then you know that it's going to be loud. It is not meant to be a time that you are also watching a show or doing something else or sleeping. So you are going to get a vacuum that's loud and as it's doing its job, and I found it better to have it turned all the way up to the best suction just to make sure that it gets your floor clean.
Starting to charge.
Another pro of this vacuum over some of the other robotic vacuums I've used is because of the wheels. The wheels on this thing are pretty rugged, and that means that it does a much better job of switching between surfaces. I have a tile portion of my living space and a wood portion of my living space and a sort of bumper that's in between those two spaces. And this has no problem getting over the top of that and continuing right along. Wyze says that it can cross heights up to 0.8 inches, which for those of you doing metric things, that's 20 millimeters to clean across any bumps in the road, as it says. This, of course, also has built-in scheduling. So you can set up, hey, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I want you to vacuum at this time. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I want you to vacuum at this time. Or if you don't even want it to be every day, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in general, this is when I'd like you to vacuum the space. And you can then create the cleaning space. Another benefit of mapping robotic vacuums is the ability to set up spaces that you can then make adjustments to. You can say, I want you to clean this. I don't want you to clean this. So for example, the robotic vacuum I had before I had this mapping one would always run into my dog's food and water bowls, and then it would spill the water all over the floor. And then the brushes would get wet, and then everything inside, all the dust would get wet, and it would become this huge mess. It was awful. And so what I ended up doing was having to take those food and water bowls and put them up out of the way while it did the vacuuming. But you kind of want this thing to be autonomous. That's the point of it, right? And so that is one of the beauties of this. The robotic vacuum, after it goes through and maps your space, you can use the app to set up walls in your space to say, hey, don't go past this spot. I don't want you to go past this spot. So I was able to set up a wall right in front of the food and water bowls in my living space. And therefore, it just zooms right on past the food and water bowl, no problem. It was really nice to see, really satisfying to see that completely work. This episode of Hands on Tech is brought to you by SanDisk. Finding a data storage solution that is compatible across all your devices can be a challenge, but not anymore thanks to SanDisk's easy-to-use data storage solutions. Their 2-in-1 flash drives are the perfect way to back up and transfer your files to other devices, and no matter what devices you have, SanDisk has you covered. For Android users with a USB-C port, the Ultra Dual Drive Lux allows you to seamlessly transfer data from your devices to your computers. And the iExpand Flash Drive Lux makes it easy to transfer data between your iPhone, iPad Pro, Mac computer, and USB-C devices. Even Android phones, with automatic file backup as soon as you plug your phone into the drive. I love my iExpand Flash Drive Lux because I can easily switch between my iPhone and my iPad, which have Lightning and USB-C respectively. And it makes it so simple to plug that in, back it up, and get those files where I need to get them. If you or anyone you know has ever suffered from data loss, then you know why it's so important to have local access to your files. And this makes it so simple. It's a fantastic gift idea for anyone with an iPhone, an Android device, pretty much any modern device. You should check out the iExpand Flash Drive Lux and the Ultra Dual Drive Lux. Trust us, SanDisk offers the best solutions for backing up and transferring your data. And right now, can get 15% off your first order of the featured SanDisk products, but only when you go to sandisk.com/hot. That's sandisk.com/HOT. It can also be set up to map or to clean specific rooms. So if you have a one floor space it could be a multi-floor space, but the main space that's got a living room, a kitchen, and a dining room in it, you can say, hey, I just want you to clean the dining room. I don't need the whole space cleaned. So the app will let you just choose specific rooms that you want to clean. This Wyze Robotic Vacuum, I think, is comparable to any of the smart mapping vacuums that exist on the market. The one other complaint that I have, one other con that I have, is it does not feature a simple way to clean a specific space. So some of the less smart robotic vacuums will let you push a button that basically runs the vacuum in a circle around a space, or runs in a square in a given area, that basically lets you say, oh, I just made an oopsie and I need you to clean this space. With this robotic vacuum, you get one kind of option, or you can do it by room. So if you spill something in the kitchen, then you'll have to tell it, hey, I want you to clean the kitchen. But outside of that, this is easily the best robotic vacuum I have ever owned, and also the best robotic vacuum that you can buy for the money. At $249.99, you would struggle to find another vacuum that has a 4-core A7 processor, that has 7 sensors, including the built-in Lidar detector, and the ability to map out your space in such a way that it will allow you to choose specific areas and block off others that you don't want to be mapped. The mapping process was very fast. I think it took about 7 minutes. So you'll get this up and running in no time. And there are lots of different settings available within the app. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about too, wanted to point out as a pro, is that the app will actually help you keep track of the replaceable portions of the vacuum. So that includes the edge brush, which is detachable and replaceable. Wyze ships 2 in the box. The brush roll, which is detachable and replaceable. They do not ship an extra one of those. You will have to get an extra one of those. And the built-in dust pan and HEPA filter. The dust pan you can empty very easily, and you can also clean the HEPA filter, and it gives you instructions for how to do so. And in the app, not only does it keep track of sort of the lifespan of these, but it gives you an easy way to tap and go and buy the replacement pieces. So very simple to do. And that way you're always working with the best versions of those replaceable parts at any given time. The last thing I want to mention is something that kind of blew me away. In just design. So in order to replace or to clean out the dustpan, you lift the top of the robot up. It's sort of a lid, and inside is the dustpan. But I was so impressed to see that right in front of that is a tiny little tool that you can use to clean the robotic vacuum. So there's a brush on one side that lets you brush away the dust. But on the other side, if you've ever bought the little device that you use to cut through wrapping paper, it sort of has a blade built in, and you slide the tool along and it cuts through the wrapping paper. That's a lot like what this looks like, but this is for the brush roll. So as hair and other things get collected along the brush roll, you can take this little blade that's protected in the middle of it and slide it along the brush roll, and it will cut through those fibers, those carpet fibers, the hair, etc., and let you easily clean that off. So with that, there are a lot of different vacuums that will give you a tool to do that, but to have it actually be built in, easy to find, and that way you never lose it, but also it's right there whenever you're already taking apart the thing to dump out the trash bin and clean it out. I think that's just very clever design. So I've got to give a bravo and a brava all the way around for the Wyze Robot Vacuum. Easily the coolest product that Wyze has ever shipped. Wyze does fantastic, cost-effective devices for your smart home and all sorts of different products. But this one is and has been a win all around. If you're looking for a robotic vacuum that takes things past just running into different spaces and trying to clean up the space, you've got to check out the Wyze Robot Vacuum with Lidar. Again, available for $249.99 or $250 at wyze.com. Folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Hands on Tech. You can check out my other shows here on the TWiT network, including Tech News Weekly, iOS Today, and Smart Tech Today. Until next time, this has been Hands on Tech, and I've been Mikah Sargent. Bye.
Keep up with all the hottest tech news and gadgets. Visit twit.tv. There you'll be able to find and subscribe to all our tech shows. Thanks for watching Hands on Tech.